change the taste because it's exactly the same product formula, but we did change how we source and manage those ingredients in the supply chain. And we did so at a cost of multi-millions, so it wasn't a small investment. It actually took us 10 months from when we made the decision to make it happen because of the capital investment we had to make in every plant where we make Cheerios. So it wasn't hollow. In fact, one thing to know about General Mills, we're the ultimate Boy Scout. We're such a Boy Scout that we can't cut a corner. So if we say we're going to do something like that, I actually said to them, hey, how about if we just, because I wanted to do it faster, I did not want the 10 months, how about if we just put the cornstarch in that tank, run it out of that tank for 4 hours or so, put the other cornstarch into other products, because it's actually the exact same stuff, just comes from a different place. And then we could say that by the time that cornstarch got into yellow box, it would be non-GM. Company said no. No, we got to buy a new tank. Got to keep them separate. So we're a Boy Scout to the nth degree. Here's the other thing I'll tell you. For about 150 bucks, you can test it. And you'll find when you do that there's GM everywhere. And we don't think there's anything wrong with GM. We don't think there's anything unsafe about it. But for about 150 bucks, you can test yellow box Cheerios and find out. So, you know, you can't get away with saying anything today because somebody will check. It's too easy. So I hope I answered that. Yes?
I have a question about the Cheerios commercial. I was just wondering, did you receive any positive responses to it, or are you going solely based off of the YouTube comments that you got? Like, did you conduct any focus groups or surveys?
So I have to tell you, the response was massively positive.
Oh, okay.
On our own websites, it was 19-to-1 positive. Out in social media, it's about 99-to-1 positive. So you might say, well, aren't you kind of overplaying it? Not really, because the negative was so negative. And the places where negative landed, it landed in a clump. So when they attacked our YouTube page, the comments were all negative for quite a while, and they were pretty nasty. I do want to be, direct. And what we told the media and others is actually the response to the ad was really positive. And as the controversy came, then people who came to our defense actually made it more positive. And the second ad was even more positive than the first. The second ad, I think, on our own sites was something like 78-2. It was about 1% negative on Facebook, but the negatives that are there are really nasty.
Did you end up running into any censorship issues then, like any legal?
Yeah, well, the reason the story came out is because on social media, when we took down the comments, we were criticized for doing that. BuzzFeed, that kind of thing. This is a big, social media story. And the New York Times saw that story and then asked us, is it true that you asked YouTube to disable it? So it was YouTube. We don't actually control it. We have to actually ask them to take it down because it was the YouTube comment feature. They told us, it took us about 20 minutes to convince them. On a telephone call, we said, we want to take these down. And they said, are you sure you want to do that? Because we don't really do that. And it's a bad idea. And, you're censoring social media, and that's going to be a big problem. And we said, hey, can you just log on and read these? And when they did, they went, yeah, okay, we'll take it down. It took about 20 minutes because they were really that bad. And yes, we got a lot of coverage. In fact, when we did this, we had to anticipate what will happen and what are all the themes that can come up with people criticizing what we've done. And so there were some basic themes: that it was a marketing ploy, that there was never a controversy. One was that we had manufactured the controversy to sell things. One was that we had not really that much negative reaction, and weren't we overstating it? We did get a little bit of that censorship thing, but basically in social media, people so engaged and they so argued with each other that became sort of irrelevant. And we did let some nasty comments go onto our own page so long as they weren't vile. And it's all about language. So some of these some words we wouldn't do. However, you could write to us and tell us how wrong you thought we were, and we would post it. So we had some conversation. We just didn't allow the nastiness or the personal nature. Some of the comments were really about her parents. There was a theme about the dad and why he's sleeping on the couch because he doesn't have a job. There was an interesting sub-theme that I never anticipated about that the mom was white and the dad was African American, and why didn't we have the courage to show it the opposite way, which I didn't even realize was a measure of courage. I just didn't understand it. But all of those things then would dissolve into their own little conversations with people fighting with each other. And the thing I'll tell you about social media that's kind of amazing is people will say the nastiest things when they think they're anonymous. So some of the things that people will say to each other is just kind of outrageous. However, if you contact us, like in the call center, or you email us, we can email you back. And nobody expected us to email people back. You know, they think we're just going to be a punching bag. I emailed a whole bunch of people. Every shareholder who sold their stock, I emailed them back. I said, you know, we understand that you have sold your stock. In other words, that was my way of saying, all right, good riddance. However, you know, I also engaged with some people on some fairly substantive conversations. It's very time consuming.
So going back to how you said you said it's important to reaffirm your values, knowing the response to that kind of things are significant, it's easy to go back and still make that same stance.
Yes. In fact, so here's what I told the boss, and the boss had to make that decision. Some decisions can only be made at a high level, and I don't get to make them. But here's what I told the boss. I said, there are 12 groups boycotting us right now, and not one of them has impacted sales. So very often you think, oh my God, we're going to have a protest, we're going to have a boycott. But very seldom do these boycotts impact sales. So in the first couple of days, I had somewhere in the neighborhood of 37, 40,000 people in that boycott. But remember, that same day, I had 30 million people eat cereal in the US. So sometimes you can overreact to what are big numbers. Subway just made a change regarding this ingredient called azodicarbonide, because the Food Babe wrote a blog and they said this ingredient, which is used to make increase dough elasticity and make it easier to handle, is used in yoga mats. It happened to Subway on a Thursday afternoon. On Sunday, they made a pledge to take it out of their products. Now, we used to sell bread to Subway. We don't do that anymore. Those different kinds of rolls, we made them up. You know, bread, dough, well, that's kind of what we do. We're good at that. But Subway is actually a difficult customer, so we don't sell them stuff anymore. I don't know if they made that decision knowing what they were going to do in its place and how difficult it would be for them to make dough. I don't know if they're actually going to do it. But you can be pretty easily put on the run in this business, and you have to be cautious not to overreact. Because 37,000 people who signed a Change.org petition is not as many people as who ate Subway that day. So, in other words, keep your calm. You know, remain calm. Don't overreact.
You talked about like the company values and how not every employer agreed with that value. So who gets to decide like what the company values are?
Well, the company values are kind of set collectively by leadership. We're a very consensus-oriented group. So the CEO and his direct reports went off in a, retreat, and they had a facilitator coming up with that. They came back with worse material than that, so we actually spiffed them up a little bit in the writing department. But, leadership actually gets to determine kind of the values. We updated the values a little bit to make them a little bit more contemporary, and the reason we did is we found people couldn't repeat them. So we had 5 values before. They were basically the same, but when we asked people to say what they were, the only one they could remember is do the right thing. So we changed the language to make them more repeatable, but the boss had to do it, and he went off with his direct reports. And then they turn it over to the communications group, and then they fight over every word we change. And, you know, frankly, we're just trying to write it better than they did when they were using butcher paper and a facilitator. That's a terrible way to write, by the way.
Is General Mills planning on creating any more like preservative-free foods?
You know, we have some, but there's, so you don't like preservatives, I can tell. There's a bit of a trick with these. They extend shelf life. And so one of the things about a mass marketer like this and the volumes we sell at the speed we do is we do kind of need them to, you know, we're not making fresh bread every day. So we do need to move them at a velocity that makes them work for people, but then when you take them home and put it on your shelf, they have to last for a little bit. So that's what the function they serve. So we have some, like Food Should Taste Good, but Larabar. And then we have a bunch of products where we're probably not going to entertain that anytime soon because of the need to work shelf life. I have to be blunt.
Do you think that General Mills taking their stance on the societal issues like the gay marriage and violating couple has paved the way or encouraged other companies to do so? I know recently Honey Maid came out with their Wholesome Families commercial. Do you think that General Mills being in a forefront has encouraged other companies to do the same?
Yes, but they can't prove it. You know, we were not the only ad that did this in the Super Bowl, but we were the only one that were doing it when we did it in the previous May. I think it paved the way after people saw that it wasn't something you couldn't manage. You do get afraid of things when you first set out to do it. On gay marriage, I was disappointed that many of our peers, including some that had 100% ratings from the HRC, did not follow us on gay marriage. We went, you know, St. Jude went first, I give them credit. We went second. We're the only one that got protested. Nobody protested St. Jude. And Thomson Reuters followed us. And all the rest of our great Minnesota companies took a powder. And that was a disappointment to me personally. At one point, on a Thursday, I had 3 other companies that I can't name who were signed up and were going to go with us all at the same time. We were going to do it, the 4 of us. It's sort of like Thelma and Louise, right? We were going to get in the car, hold hands, drive like hell, and go off the edge. And on that day, in the legislature, somebody leaked it, and those 3 companies lost their nerve. They never actually did come forward. And I think it's their loss. I really do. I'd rather be the company that lived its values and look our employees in the eye than the companies that I know didn't have the courage to get in the car with Thelma. All right, well listen, it's been a pleasure. I'm sorry about the technical stuff. I have these cool videos. It would have helped. If you had seen the ads, you would have said, that's cute. And I wish that would all work for you, but I do appreciate the conversation.